can take questions. I will take questions during the session if you want, but can you put them in the chat? If you put them in the chat, then I will interrupt Rob if as it relates to what he's discussing. And then if you want to wait until the end, that's fine too. We can certainly take those questions at the end. But Rob Harris is our speaker today. He's the sales and technical trainer for the power brands Furman, Panamax, and Blue Boat Technologies for Nortec Security and Control. He is also, he's got the dubious pleasure of being the artist relations manager for Furman Pro AV channel and has been with the company for over 18 years. So at this point, I am going to mute myself and hand it over to Rob. And just as a reminder, if you have any questions about these products, you can call your sales team here at Furman and they'll be happy to help. All right, Rob, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Marvelous. Thank you, Stacy. Welcome, everybody. Happy Friday Eve, as we'd like to say, as we're almost into Friday. And, you know, hopefully you're done with this beautiful week. My name is Rob Harris, as Stacy mentioned. Yes, I'm the Pro AV trainer for the Furman, Panamax, and Blue Bolt brands. In this case, we're going to go over our Furman Pro AV line. With that, a little bit of history on myself. Yeah, I've been with the company for 18 years, starting with Furman originally. And then Furman was purchased by Panamax through Nortec Security Control about 14 years ago. And then, of course, I've been with literally Nortec for 14 years under the Furman and Panamax and Blue Bolt brands. I was also the head of tech support for 12 years for All Power. And with that, yes, I also have the lovely title of Artist Relations Manager, which can be a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of babysitting and making sure people are, you know, getting the right products. And if they have any questions or issues with things, that they would contact me directly, and I would help them get through and get things sorted. With that, unfortunately, with our, you know, our touring folks down right now, there's a lot of people that I know that are diversifying right now, of course, and doing different jobs with the COVID thing going on. There are people that are waiting it out as well, and hopefully we can get through this whole COVID time of things and get back to more normalcy, you know, and get used to back to the way that things were. With that, I digress. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about Furman and a bit of the Furman history. So Furman was founded in 1975 by a guy named Jim Furman. Jim Furman was basically the sound engineer for the Grateful Dead. He also had worked for Alembic, which was a company that manufactured guitars and basses, as well as they did some amplification and whatnot. And that actually led him into being the sound engineer for the Grateful Dead. And with that, with him working so closely with artists and him being a sound engineer as well, he started devising different toys for people to play with, basically, that were basically signal processors for pro musicians. Started out with it's called the PQ1, which was just a simple parametric EQ with a one-band sweep kind of thing, and then that turned into our PQ3. Which was probably the most hottest item that we made. There was also a PQ4 and a PQ6. You can see our lovely endorsers. Mr. Jerry Garcia, when he was still alive, was a massive endorser for that. Of course, Bob Weir. And basically that led him on his path of starting to create his own business. But with that being tied to the Grateful Dead, a lot of his first clients were a lot of other SF Bay Area musicians as well, as that came into play. Jefferson Airplane and pretty much Steve Miller, a bunch of people that were based in the Bay Area or came through the Bay Area ended up starting to utilize his products via the friend musicians that they had, and that made him more ever popular because he created some really cool stuff. With that, in about 1983, we decided to focus on power products. We were the originator of the very first ever rack mount power conditioner, the PL8. And some of you might be fans of this device that can remember back that far. It used to be really hard to distribute power throughout a rack So you'd have a lot of power cords that came out and basically had to be plugged into a junction box on the outside of the rack, or that you just had loose equipment that was laying around. By creating this rack mount power conditioner, we found a way to not only distribute the power easily in the rack, but also provide some noise filtration to get rid of the noise that would be on the AC line that would, create some nastiness in your audio. And then with that, also provide protection to make sure that people had something in there that was going to take the hit if a massive spike or surge or anomaly happened. With that, by being focused on this power products back in 1983, and also being creating signal processing, we became the #1 power management brand in the pro audio video industry, and we still hold that title to this day by owning probably about 90% of the market share when we're talking about pro audio video. So Furman is the #1 choice in the professional world. It's used throughout recording studios, live sound, touring, television and radio broadcast, and film. Also a ton of commercial applications and whatnot. With that, here's part of the fun that I get to have with the artist relations manager end. Here's just a drop in the bucket of some of the artists that we deal with that utilize our products, that are endorsed directly. Peter Frampton, I actually have a really good relationship, really nice guy. All the guys in Aerosmith, I have some sort of relationship with. But all these people, they utilize the Furman products because they want something where the show must go on and you can't have stuff go down. And that leads us to probably the only band that will survive the COVID and the nuclear holocaust, the hottest band in the land, Kiss. There they are in their glory, an amalgamation of Kiss at that point. There's not all 4 original members, but my wife and son and I were able to meet them, and they're actually a really nice camp and really nice guys. That have maintained a really good professional relationship with those guys. And with that, I digress. Let's go on and let's talk about what causes electrical problems in itself and why you want power conditioning, why your clients need power conditioning. Well, let's starts out with our aging power grid. We have a power grid that's over 100 years old. A lot of that infrastructure isn't changing anytime soon. You'll see a lot of overhead power lines and whatnot. A lot of that cabling exists. If you think of when a storm comes through and a power pole is knocked over, or maybe an accident that causes that, when they do a repair to that, they only repair the wire to get to the broken pole and then on to the next junction. They're not replacing that whole line anytime soon. So all those aging power lines above, as they're swinging, they're creating small inductions and all kinds of stuff. You've seen light flickers and all kinds of fun stuff like that. That can be caused from the outside aging power grid. You also have, since the induction of the home computer, or introduction of the home computer, I should say, switching power supplies that have been brought on the line. And, if you think about from when the, first maybe Apple IIe came out on to now today, we're not talking just a laptop or a desktop or tower, but we're also talking about everything with a microprocessor in it. Smart televisions, you've got, all your signal processing equipment, anything that has a switching power supply, that started introducing a whole new era of line noise that is basically introducing noise not only outside, but within the building that you're in as well. There's also your neighboring grid. So if you think of that, you've got, say, 5 computers in one house, and now you're looking at a grid of 100 houses. Well, now you've got 500 computers that are on the line creating noise, backflushing on the line, and creating noise that is basically stealing the frequencies for your audio and video and causing spikes and surge problems as well. You've got your house or studio, or, you can think of these as, industrial applications too. It doesn't have to be a residential grid, but it can be an industrial grid, of course. And this is the same thing with the house or studio, or, any commercial application as well. Just put a bunch of houses there, and there you go. Inside the house, you'll have that stuff. And then, of course, there's the never forgiving nature that'll do what it wants when it wants at any point in time. And within that, we're going to talk about surges and spikes, AC line noise, those brownout and under voltages or over voltage swells. And we're not going to really touch on this a little bit, but blackouts, and we'll probably have a little Q&A at the end on a way to take care of that. Anyway, so nature isn't the only danger. If you think about it, every time you know, an AC substation switches to change where the power is coming from, that's going to adjust for, you know, peak demands in areas. That's going to cause spikes and surges. Additionally, over 65% of the spikes are generated within the building you're in. So if you think of every time when a refrigerator comes on or a piece of industrial machinery, air conditioner, all those things are introducing spikes back onto the line that can slowly eat away at your equipment. And you know, hey, you think that simple power strip's going to do the job? Well, guess what? It really doesn't do much of anything, especially with AV equipment, because it's especially susceptible to long-term damage. It's going to reduce performance when connected equipment, when they connected to an unprotected AC source, which what your simple power strip really is. It isn't really doing anything to protect anything. It also isn't doing anything to get rid of noise. So all you're really doing is poorly distributing the power. You're gaining more places to plug into, but they're not really healthy ways to do it. And I'll share with you a cool little video here in a bit where you're going to see why you don't want to use that plastic power strip. Also, the effects of surges, it doesn't really take much to take out an IC chip. Just a 3-volt spike junction in the wrong, or excuse me, a 3-volt spike in the wrong junction of an IC chip can physically destroy it immediately. And if it even isn't at that level, you can have a smaller spike that's going to slowly degrade the processor and loosen its lifespan, basically, you know, where you can lose up to half of its life expectancy. And it may not be something where it shows right away, but all of a sudden, as the unit gets older, you'll see, you know, effects that include would be like increased distortion or digital errors and signal lockups, things like that, that will not appear as an immediate failure, but as an intermittent failure. And a lot of times it's because of power problems that cause these things to happen. And a lot of people think it may be from the manufacturer, but a lot of times it's power related. So if we take care of that power in the beginning, you're gonna have something where you're gonna have more longevity for your equipment. So we'll talk about our sacrificial versus non-sacrificial power solutions. We make sacrificial devices, of course we do. They're still a great way to go. And they basically use MOVs, metal oxide varistors. And those MOVs, they do their job, but unfortunately they'll degrade over time. So you can think of maybe a 3 to 5 year life expectancy on it, on something that's MOV based by itself. Those MOVs, when they see that, you know, essentially surge or spike of energy that consists of voltage and current, what they do is they dissipate that energy. Once they reach their joule value, though, and they reach beyond that, their value, they're going to start degrading, or in a worst case scenario, they'll actually sacrifice themselves, which is what they're supposed to do. But unfortunately, it's fairly it's really nasty when we're talking about a plastic power strip. And once again, I'll share with you in a video in a minute. Now, our other solution, our Furman SMP technology, series multi-stage protection, that's a non-sacrificial design. And it's designed, it uses a series of components to absorb the surge energy and dissipate it throughout heat. And the beauty of this design is we created a design to where it can dissipate that energy without degrading the circuit over time. And we'll dive into that in a little bit here. As of right now, actually, I'm going to share a lovely video with you. Hold on just a second while I switch the audio over so you can see, or so you can hear everything that's going to go on here. And this is a demonstration of our SMP circuit.
Hi, I'm Christos Deslanos with Furman. Today we're going to demonstrate our series multi-stage protection surge suppression circuit. We're at Panamax Furman headquarters in Petaluma, California. This is where we do all of our research, design, and engineering for our products and technology. This is our surge generator. This massive custom-built piece of test equipment can produce an incredible amount of energy, which simulates a nearby lightning strike. To demonstrate the destructive power of this surge generator, we're going to put a capacitor on the output of it. This is a typical electronic component that you'd find in most audio and video equipment. Here we go. Now we're going to run the same demo, but we have our series multi-stage protection circuit in between the capacitor, which is our load, and the generator. Our SMP circuit is a non-sacrificial design, meaning not only does it protect your connected equipment, but it also protects itself. Let's see what happens when we apply the surge. Not only has the connected equipment been protected, but the SMP circuit sustained no damage. This means zero downtime for our customers, which in turn means no service calls for their clients for repairs or replacements. It's because of this technology that audio, video professionals have been trusting Furman.
Well, all right. I think it's a pretty impressive video. Plus, that machine is a lot of fun to play with. We've utilized that not obviously for our testing purposes, but we've had some fun throughout the years where we've used Vienna sausages and stuff. And it makes a bit of a mess. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a transformer that Christos was putting on top of the cover. That transformer, if you don't put that on there, that surge energy is so much that it'll actually blow the lid up. So it's quite a crazy amount of energy that's put into that to do that testing. And with that,
Hey, Rob.
SMP, yeah.
Oh, sorry, your screen just popped back up. We were seeing all black. We just wanted to make sure we were.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry. Yeah, I was talking through the end of it and I left it on that last slide.
That's all right.
Sorry. Well, with that SMP circuit, like we're looking at here, and I appreciate you checking in on me, Stacy, because there have been times where I've disappeared and didn't know it. So that SMP circuit, this design has been out for almost 15 years now. And with that, we've shipped over 1 million products worldwide with no surge-related failures. And with me being the head of tech support for 12 years, as well as I'm still tied into tech support very tightly because I work with them, and you can't get rid of 18 years of knowledge without tech support needing some higher end stuff here. So I do still fundamentally support those guys. With that, I've yet to see one unit ever go down for a catastrophic surge out of 1 million units shipped worldwide. So this circuit in itself is not going down. Now, if we had simple stuff where maybe an LED went out or maybe an outlet quit working, sure, I mean, that's going to happen with anybody. Very few and far between though. But as far as getting past this circuit, you're not getting past it. Now, with that, keep in mind, we still provide sacrificial protection because there's still benefit for it and a budget range that it'll fit in. And that starts at our Merit Series M8X2. But when you go into anything, as soon as you see SMP, you know you've got that basically bulletproof protection. That's like a Kevlar vest for your equipment. So with the M8X, that's the guy that protects the president, but he's off to the hospital or the morgue after he's taken the hit. The SMP is basically the guy with the Kevlar vest. He can deflect the bullets, get the president into a safe area, and still be up and running without going down in the process. So we're going to talk about another issue here, under and over voltages. That would be something where the SMP circuit is meant for spikes and surges. Those spikes and surges can be very fast, within a nanosecond. Those are what I call bullets. So essentially, SMP is for the bullets. The next technology we're going to look at is our EVS technology, and that's going to be for your sustained under and over voltages, where voltage goes high and stays high. It's a slower rise, even though it can be super fast as a tenth of a second. But with that, you want to have something to combat that and disconnect to make sure things don't cook. And with this, there's no audio in this video, so I'll be the commentator. And what we're going to look at here is, once again, you know, hey, do you think it's okay to plug in that simple surge strip, those plastic power strips? And here's why you don't want to. So here's your typical surge strip on the left. On the right is our Furman PL8C with our EVS, extreme voltage shutdown. And then we're using a step-up transformer in a box here to take 120 volts, turn it into 200 volts. As soon as we press that red button, that's when the bad stuff starts happening over here on the strip level. It's already blown the MOVs in there, and now if that voltage is continuing, it's going to let through that voltage. And now what's happening is the insulation's burning up. It's basically getting ready to do drastic things, even something in a worst case scenario where ABS plastic that's fire retardant is not fireproof, and you can actually have a fire that happens. Now, if you notice with the Furman, start off and back on, you're back up and running. You got all your equipment's fine, and the Furman is fine. So it's basically protected, not only everything that was plugged into it, but it's protecting itself in the process. And that simple plastic power strip, that's not the case. And unfortunately, throughout years, in tech support, I have had instances where people had plastic power strips and they did have things where things were burnt up. Something as simple as carpet in the living room, all the way out to there were buildings, sections of buildings that have been burnt.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah.
We have a question from a tech support question from the audience.
Okay, sounds good.
If I've got a power factor of 20 in my theater that's got a hum, where do I need to put a dab of hot glue?
So that's an interesting way to put the question. So a power factor of 20, where do you put a dab of hot glue? Well, if you've got a hum in your system, that is, you know, there's a multitude of things that can happen there, of course. That could be signal related. That can be something like an AC ground loop, where you have a ground differential at different plugs and points. You know, maybe you have a subwoofer plugged in by itself into a wall, and that circuit just happens to not share the same ground, or the ground, there's a differential on that ground, and then when the signal line is tied together, that ground potential goes through, of course, the signal line wire and goes back to where the rest of your equipment is, and just turns out that AC ground where the sub was is different from the AC ground where the rest of the equipment is. Well, now you have a AC ground loop. There's a fighting potential between the two grounds. The way to check for that, of course, would be to take a long extension cord, plug your subwoofer into that, route that back to your rack where the rest of your equipment is, plug into the same power source so you're sharing the same ground, and that'll let you know whether that subwoofer has a different ground potential or not. That can be done with any equipment that's not in the same ground scheme, or if you're in a building where it's not star grounded, there's another potential. Anytime you have a ground differential, you want to try to share everything at the same ground point. Now, there are other things that could come across with that too, and we're getting a little into a deep dive here.
Yeah,
you know,
that's okay. I think this is from Jim Spencer. I think he might have been just
joking with me a little bit. I know, and I might have got on the serious end of it. I'm like, well, I want to make sure people are aware. Yeah, and anytime, if it's something that gets crazy, contact your Herman representative, and they could always put contact with me, and I'll be glad to have fun to add that hot glue wherever you need, Jim. We can get you fixed up. I take things always serious with a grain of salt at the same time, and that was a good one. Like, nice. I'm like, the power factor portion of it, that's, you know, That's Furman, not 101, which we're going through today, but that's Furman 201. We'll do that class another time.
Sounds good.
Marvelous. All right, so moving on here. So power problems such as, those sustained under and over voltages, we saw how a simple plastic power strip reacts to that, and of course something with our EVS. There are other companies that build an extreme voltage shutdown in there, but with Furman's EVS or Panamax's AVM, automatic voltage monitoring, those are the same in design. And where they differ and why those technologies are great is because what we do there, and not a lot of people do this, is we measure that circuit, basically, we measure the voltage coming in on that sine wave. And as you can see here, I got a nice little representation of a sine wave. And we look at that as soon as the rise of the sine wave happens. We're looking at that, and we're cutting off at a point at around 140 volts. Between 137 and 145 is the kind of threshold for that. And we disconnect immediately at that point in time. Now, what we found with a lot of competitors is they're not looking at the rise of the sine wave, but they're waiting until the peak. And at that peak, you're 200 plus volts at that point. Now, granted, it's still good that they're shutting off, but the problem is that you have a let-through voltage that is going to slowly eat away at your equipment. Now, with that cutoff doing it at the rise, you're going to get rid of that, those small spikes and surges that slowly eat away at your equipment on the rise end as opposed to the peak end. And that's going to allow your equipment to have a longer lifespan, and it's going to, allow your equipment to remain safe, and you'll get a lot more longevity out of it by all means. So the other portion of what's happening with power conditioning, and once you run across where your equipment isn't working at optimum performance, is you end up with AC line noise. Now, what causes that AC line noise? Guess what? A lot of the same things. Aging power lines, that same thing. It's introducing noise into the system. Those switching power supplies. Now, times that by your neighboring grids. And of course, inside the building as well. All the same things that cause spikes and surges are the same things that are causing AC line noise as well. And how we combat that is we go through what's called our lift technology. And what's happening there is basically part of that frequency range to your lower dB level is all that noise is stealing from the performance of your audio and video. And, basically, if you think about it, your AC line noise isn't always manifested by noise you could see or hear loudly. It'll be something that's actually at lower levels where it's masking off stuff like the fundamental harmonics or the ambience or the dynamics of things. So you might hear the loud stuff and, be okay with a voice that's up here, but as soon as someone starts whispering or you have anything at lower levels, you end up missing that content. And this is the very content is the very reason why we pay more for better equipment, because we want that full resolution, that full audio and video detail. And so by that noise robbing that out of there, that's where you want to get some great filtration applied to that at that point in time. You could think of it, that noise there is basically, it's almost like a poorly EQ'd audio or a not properly calibrated television, where you're not getting the true blacks or the true whites of everything, and you're not getting the full contrast. Matter of fact, poorly filtered power, your yellow can turn into like a green kind of color almost, or you can have not, brownish black as opposed to black, or white can be like milky white. So basically, if you get rid of that noise, you're going to get the full detail of not only in your audio, but you're going to get it in your video as well. So you're going to get the full resolution. Things are going to sound better, and you're going to hear and see things. Also, it's going to take away noise fatigue, basically. And that lift filtration, what it does is it takes care of transverse or differential mode. EMI or RFI, electromagnetic interference, or radio frequency interference. I'm sure you've heard it called that before. And that's also referred to as transverse or differential mode. A lot of that, if you want a simple representation, it relates to clicks, pops, buzz, AM radio and your audio, also snow and artifacts in your video. And it's not only that the AC line noise is diminishing the resolution of the image and audio quality, but it also can lead up to malfunctions such as lockups and digital circuit lockups and stuff like that. So it's very important to not only get rid of the spikes and surges, but to get rid of the noise in the AC line as well. And if we were to look at a physical representation of that, what we're looking at here is this is us doing a measurement, and this blue line represents the AC line noise. And what we're looking at this green line here is we're looking at applying a typical AC filter, just a simple filter that's off the shelf, nothing like what Furman or Panamax make. And think of this as being subwoofer frequencies from left to right. And it goes up into mid into high frequencies. And then this, if it kept on, you just see this roller coaster of this up and down, and it not truly sweeping out the noise throughout the full audio and video bandwidth. And you can see here, it actually isn't doing anything to reduce the noise through the sub frequencies through the mid, actually makes in around the 2K area a spike in noise. So it's actually introducing more noise in areas where you don't want. And then, like I said, you'd have that roller coaster effect as we moved out. Now, if we look at Furman with our lift filtration, what we created, over almost 15 years ago, we reduced that noise floor about minus 10 dB in the subwoofer range. So you're immediately getting that noise floor down to minus levels. So what that's doing is that's allowing all those frequencies to breathe where that audio and video exists. In this case, we're looking at audio subwoofer frequencies throughout the mid frequency range, out through high frequency range. And then by the time this went out all the way at the end of the bandwidth, I think we've measured out to 2 gig. It literally gets down to about minus 160 dB by the time it gets out into that full range. And what we're doing there by freeing up those frequencies, it allows them to produce that audio and video that exists in those frequencies, so you get full resolution. And that's what that green line was the lift filtration. Now, to give you an idea, we have a simple, some of you might be familiar with the old noise sniffer that's been around for a long time, that was created quite a while back. We've utilized them for many years. There were other manufacturers that utilized them as well to give people an audible representation. We've kind of came out with a new finer tuned version of that called a PLM 300 is what we're calling it, a power line analyzer. And we worked with Alpha Labs to kind of get it into a frequency range so it would be fair to measure for anybody. And what we're looking at here is we're measuring right out of the wall the noise, coming into this measurement device, and you're seeing it in millivolts basically. And you're seeing about 704 millivolts coming in on the line. And if you had this in your hand, it fits in the palm of your hand, unlike the old one was a much bulkier box. You'd hear that audible representation you're used to as well, where it'd be going, letting you know line noise is there. So with that, we took something with our SMP lift technology, because those two actually work together. Lift helps to reduce that noise as well as the SMP for those spikes and surges, but then the lift will reduce that EMI and RFI at low levels. And what we found by measuring afterwards is we ended up with going down from 704 millivolts down to 18.8 millivolts on the output. So that turns into a much quieter background. And with that, as far as numbers go, that's literally a 97% reduction in the noise. And this was just using something as simple as our little AC215A. But anytime you see SMP, that's always going to have EVS and lift in there as well. So you're going to get these same results from any of our devices that have that. Now, I'm going to touch just a little bit on this. Some of you probably work with doing live sound or need power sequencing in some sort of fashion. Power sequencing in a live sound scenario, obviously, is something where you want to power up and down your equipment correctly so you don't end up blowing voice coils on speakers or having a PA system damaged in some fashion or another. And the way to do that properly is you would power up your signal line first at the front of house, and then you go ahead and turn on your equipment room where your amp racks and your DSP would be, and then that would go ahead and power on your clusters. And then to sequence it down properly, you would go ahead and hit the sequence button on our device, and that would allow it to actually sequence down in the opposite fashion, shutting down the amplification first and then your signal afterwards, allowing it to make sure that if you try to shut down signal first with amplifiers live, you're going to get a pop from that signal device, so your mixing console. That's actually going to create an induction that's going to push voice coils. In some extreme cases, will actually blow the voice coils, and you could be looking at thousands and thousands of dollars of replacement costs, depending on the cost of the system, of course. So our sequencers, we found a way to where if grandma wanted to come in and turn on a PA in a church, she could come in, turn a key or press a button, and it would power up that massive sound system for you, and make sure that nothing would get destroyed in the process, and it could also be powered down correctly. So with that, we're going to go over some of the power conditioners in the line. We're going to go over our Merit series, which starts out with our M8X2. And within the M8X2, it has our standard level surge protection, so it's going to be a sacrificial design, but nothing like that plastic power strip. It's in a metal chassis. It's going to be able to basically do its job without any detrimental aspect afterwards. It's going to have some standard level of filtration, EMI and RFI, similar to that first chart that I showed you. A little bit better though. We're not knocking up noise in the 2K. At least it's reducing, but it would look like a roller coaster effect somewhat, but nothing like what I showed you in that representation. This guy also has a diagnostic light letting you know that the MOVs are okay. If that OK light was ever off, then you know, hey, it's time to swap out that device and get a new one in there because it's done its job, sacrificed itself. It's 15 amp capacity, and that's showing you where the circuit breaker is for the device. If you drew more than 15 amps, that little button would pop out. Be like those turkeys that have the button in them. And with this, what's nice about the M8X2 or anything that has this button breaker is you can reset your Furman. You can't reset your turkey. So just keep that in mind. I was like, share that. That's funny to me, probably nobody else. Anyway, it has 9 outlets on it, 8 in the back, 1 in the front. There's wall wart spacing on 3 of them. Now, when we jump over the M8LX, still has all those same features that we just showed you, but now it has a couple of pull-out lights. And of course, there's a dimmer knob to go ahead and control the intensity of the light. So L stands for light. So M8X, no lights. M8LX, you add some lights. And the M8DX, still have all those features that we showed you, including the pull-out lights. And then it's adding a digital meter in the front to show you what the voltage is coming out of the wall. Now, it doesn't regulate the voltage, but the beauty of this is that it does allow you to have a measurement device, so you can use it as a diagnostic tool. If you plug into the wall and you look at the voltage and it's at 105 volts, you probably want to go somewhere else and try to find a different area. So that's something you tell your clients is, hey, if you're going to use this in a mobile rack situation, or if you're just wondering what your voltage is, here's a great way to measure the voltage without breaking out a voltmeter. And then if you're doing something that's mobile, you can move this around to other outlets to find a better circuit that hopefully has better voltage going on. And of course, here's our Merit M8S. S is for sequencer. So here's our low-cost solution for sequencing. Has all those same protection features and wall wart spacing and all that good stuff. With this, it also does power sequencing, of course. So basically, it'd switch on the sequencer on the right there, and then it will go ahead and turn on those delays in the proper fashion, turning on delays 1 first, 2, and 3. And then when you go to sequence it off, it's going to go ahead and do that in reverse fashion, turning delays 3 off, 2 off, and 1 off. And now you've actually powered up your system properly. Not only great for inrush current, so you're not tripping a breaker back at a panel, but obviously a great way to power up your audio system without damaging your system as well, or anything that needs sequencing. It's also our M8X AR. I threw this in the bunch because we're not going over voltage regulation today, but I wanted to show that here's one device that does voltage regulation. So this guy, basically, it's got the standard level of protection and filtration. It's got that OK lights, 15 amps, 9 outlets. This actually has EVS built into it, where the other ones didn't. So there's no cutoff. Basically, if you have an overvoltage that's extended, it'll probably blow out the MOVs inside of the other Merit Series pieces. With this one, it has that cutoff relay that would actually go ahead and shut off and make sure things didn't cook, protecting not only your equipment, but itself. And then, of course, it's got an LED meter on there. And then this will actually manipulate the output voltage. So it can take anything from 97 to 137 coming in and output 115 to 125 to your equipment. So it takes a large, wide range of voltage and puts out a nice, consistent range on the output to your equipment. There's also our Classic series, starting out with the good old PL8C. Now, this guy, this is where you get into non-sacrificial surge protection. There's that SMP. There's that lift technology, getting rid of the noise of EMI and RFI throughout, linearly getting rid of that noise throughout the audio and video bandwidth. It's got that extreme voltage shutdown to make sure things don't sit there and just cook. So it takes care of the bullets, deflects those, takes care of the wave of over or under voltage and cuts off so that wave doesn't crash over everything. And with the PL8C, it's L for lights, of course, and it's got pull-out front panel lights. All the Merit series, they're incandescent bulbs. These are LEDs. And then, of course, with this, there's your dimmer knob to go ahead and change the intensity. That's also an on-off switch, too. So if you have it turned all the way up and you have those pull-out lights pulled out because there are these tubes that pull out and shine down onto the equipment below it, you also have a quick way to turn on and off the lights right there. And then it's got that diagnostic light, though I can tell you 1 million units worldwide, 14, almost 15 years. I've yet to see one unit go down. I've had this LED go out before and we brought a unit back in. It turns out that the LED burned out. That's the only thing I've ever seen as far as that goes. 15 amp capacity. It's got those 9 outlets on the back. Where this differs is it's got that wall wart spacing, but this has isolated banks as well. So basically, if you have say a DC power supply and that's plugged in next to an amplifier, and when you plug in that DC power supply, you start hearing, well, guess what? Take that DC power supply, put it on the other bank, leave the amplifier plugged into the separate bank. Now you've segregated those power supplies and you've gotten rid of the noise on the AC line caused by that power supply there. So it's a way to get your noise floor lower. And on all of our units, starting at the Classic series, there is a BNC connector on the back where you can add a gooseneck lamp to the back. So you not only can illuminate the front of the rack, but it also can illuminate the rear of the rack as well. With that, we also have the power switch for that BNC connector right there. That's where you turn the gooseneck lamp off and on. When we jump over the PL Plus C, it's got all those same feature sets that we just showed you on the PL8C. Difference here is now we've added a ladder style LED meter that shows you the voltage coming out of the wall. When we go over the PL Plus DMC, same thing, all those same feature sets, but now we have a dual meter here. It's a digital meter, shows you a digital readout as opposed to the ladder style LED meter where it has green, red, green, and yellow LEDs. This gives you a numeric value. And what's cool about this is if you press this button that's on the right-hand side, that switches you over from showing you the voltage coming out of the wall to how much current you're drawing. So it's a current meter as well. So if you're wondering how hard your equipment's working and you want to see what the overall current draw was for all the devices as they're turned on, you can take a look at that right there. Great way to measure the current on your system. We also have our Pro Classic series. These are all 20 amp devices. Starting out with the P8 Pro C, same thing, SMP lift, EVS, protection okay, all that good stuff. Now what you'll see here that's different is these have 20 amp receptacles on the back. So with this, keep in mind, 20 amp units come with a 20 amp plug on the end. So you're gonna see a NEMA 520p plug. And what that looks like different from a NEMA 515 plug, the standard plug that you're used to, that everything uses for the most part, is you'll notice you have 2 horizontal blades here and then a round ground pin. With a 20 amp plug, one of the blades is vertical. That's why you see a T on the right-hand side. So if you have 20 amp devices, it allows you to plug in to the receptacles on the back. And keep in mind that you're going to need that kind of receptacle to plug in your 20 amp device. Now, We do make an adapter. It's called an ADP, Apple David Paul -1520B as in boy, so ADP-1520B. And it allows you to take that 20 amp plug and plug it into a 1-foot extension with a breaker on there. It allows you to adapt that over to a 15 amp receptacle, and it has a 12 amp breaker on there on purpose because you want to kick off that breaker. Otherwise you have that melting of wire like you saw before with the plastic strip, only that melting of wire would be in the wall at that point. Though the breaker should technically trip back at the panel, we put a fail safe on the unit just to make sure as well.
Hey, Rob, I have a question from the
Sure.
audience, if I could.
You bet. Absolutely.
How are the outlet banks isolated? Separate noise filters, or are they transformer isolated?
It actually uses a ferrite bead technology, so it's not transformer, it's a ferrite bead at that point. So it's going to stop DC crosstalk contamination, basically, is how it's designed.
Okay. Jim, did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. So with the PL Pro C, it's got all that goodness that the P8 Pro C had. With this, of course, we're adding pull-out lights at that point. Of course, that dimmer on-off knob. And then, of course, we're adding a voltmeter here. Now, when we get into these 20 amp guys from the PL Pro C on, we've also added a USB charger in the front. Now, a lot of people laughed at this at first, and so did we, but we're like, what the heck, let's throw it on there. This has been one of the most useful features for most of the guys that I get that utilize this equipment, because it gives them a spot to go ahead and charge their phone without absorbing the outlet in the front, and it's actually become a great feature set. And with that, when we go over the PL Pro DMC, this is just like the PL Plus DMC, only it's 20 amp, of course, and it's got that dual meter, of course. You press that button over there on the side. And then it's got that USB charger once again. Now, one simple story I'll share with you real quick. I have a friend of mine, his name's DJ Ashba. He is a hired gun guitar player. He's in a band called 6 AM with Nikki Sixx from Guns N' Roses, or excuse me, from Guns N' Roses, from Motley Crue. He was, DJ Ashba was actually the guitar player for Guns N' Roses for a while when it was mainly just Axl Rose running with the name. They were doing a residency in Las Vegas. And basically he had picked up a couple of these units for his rig, and they're running sound check. He's outside and he's kind of chunking on his guitar on stage, and he had plugged in his phone into that USB charger there, and basically getting his phone charged. He comes back in and he sees that his phone was unplugged and there's this other phone there, and he goes, well, that's kind of rude. I wonder who the heck stole that. So he goes ahead, unplugs the other phone, throws it to the side, plugs his phone back in, goes back out, starts playing away again, doing sound check, making sure things are running right, and comes back in, sees that other phone plugged back in, and he goes, what in the heck is going on here? He goes, I'm gonna just wait around the corner. So he went and plugged his phone back in, waited around the corner, and as he's waiting around the corner, he's chunking his guitar so it sounds like he's on stage. Well, he sees Axl Rose walk up and unplug his phone. And then Axl plugs his phone into charge. So DJ comes out and he goes, dude, what are you doing, man? He goes, well, I need to charge my phone. He goes, well, get your own. And he goes, well, fine, I will. So Axl Rose ended up getting a couple of these PL Pro DMCs. And of course, yes, he put it on his vocal gear for his wireless and all that good stuff. So he's getting goodness to it. But I found that this is the most expensive phone charger ever purchased by a band that I've ever ran into. So a little story I like to share. I find it funny. That there you go. Axl Rose ended up buying these as a phone charger, got great benefit from it, but hey, there you go.
We'll take anything, right, Rob?
Pretty much.
I have a question here. It says, is there a sequence module or a 1RU sequencer recommended to protect DSP plus control systems?
There is, and I'm glad that you asked that because it's actually part of the contractor series. This guy here, the CN1800S, The reason why I would recommend this over the M8S, though the M8S is a fine unit to have there for sequencing and whatnot, this device here, the CN1800S, is actually designed to use with a control system. You can actually plug it into RS-232 right there, and you can control this particular device through either RS-232 or even a dry contact closure on the remote port here. And this is part of our contractor series. So this, basically this with our CN2400S, which is the 20 amp device, these are going to have that pro level surge protection and filtration into them. So they're going to be great for that DSP to knock down the noise floor, make sure you get the quietest and best signal to everything within the system. And then you get that controllability that you have there. And then it's going to be tough as nails as far as that goes. Of course, they do power sequencing. They have those 9 outlets. It's got the protection okay. 15 and 20 amp rated, like I mentioned. Now, these contractor series, you can daisy chain up to 50 of these guys together. And what you do is basically there's some dip switches in here for control, for timing and whatnot. Basically, the first one in the chain will be primary, and that's dip switch 8. Leave that up. On the rest of them that you're going to utilize, you'll put them in secondary mode. Everybody after the first one is a secondary device. Put dip switch 8 down, and now just use 2 wires. They could be 1,000 feet apart of 24 gauge unshielded twisted pair, and basically it uses a current feedback loop for the information. And you can literally go 1,000 feet apart with these, up to 50 units altogether. And that first one in the chain will be your controller for everything. So even with that RS-232, that will allow you to control any of those 50 devices that are within the chain. And it could be mixed match of CN1800Ss and 2400Ss, along with also our CN15 MPs or 20 MPs as well, which are great modules to put in remote areas if you need to. Be a great way to power up some powered speakers or maybe other things that you have in remote areas. Of course, these have EVS. They're not going to have the lift and the SMP, but they have that extreme voltage shutdown, which primarily 99% of the time is what destroys things, is the over voltages. But there are, of course, those fast nanosecond bullet things that can get you too. But with these are just a great way to have smaller modules to put in those chains. And basically, you could even make one of these a primary device. Typically, I recommend a CN1800S though, so you have more control over outlets and whatnot. Plus, you have the lift filtration, and you're usually putting that in an area where you would have signal processing. So you want to get that noise floor down. Plus, you want to make sure that you're getting rid of the edge of those bullets and other anomalies coming in. So you get a longer life expectancy. One thing about the contractor series, which is pretty cool, we didn't go over warranties, but warranty on the Merit series is 3 years. Warranty on the Classic series is 5 years. Warranty on the Contractor series, 15 years. We do 15 years on the warranty on these Contractor series. That's how much we believe in them. And they've been out for about 12 years now. And once again, these things are just a bulletproof system. And with that, you got your 15 and 20 amp devices. And if you ever wanted to, you could connect and control the CN series with our Blue Bolt cloud-based technology by utilizing what's called our BB RS-232. And what this is it's a RS-232 to Ethernet adapter, and this will allow you to control it via our Blue Bolt cloud. Now, unfortunately, with a control system, it's not an Ethernet control system for your Ethernet. You would still have to use RS-232 direct. But if you want to use our Blue Bolt technology, which is at mybluebolt.com, you can control everything through mybluebolt.com, through an app or through the web page on your browser, basically. And our littlest guy, I always like to bring him up, the AC215A. That's where we did that sound test. Just a really small box to put our SMP lift and EVS technology. So it's the most comprehensive power conditioner and the smallest chassis that we could design. And then with that, you have pro level conditioning and filtration built into that. Now remember, power, every job, every time. This is, not negotiable, because this, when you're installing things, it's your reputation. It's either yourself as the dealer, it's reputation, yourself as the installer, it's your reputation. you want to do the right thing for your customer. You want to make sure you get things in place to give them, a lot of uninterrupted, performance, as well as making sure that under mission critical aspects that the show must go on. It's going to be something where it's going to create longevity and a lot less headaches for your clients and yourself. You put the right stuff in the front end, that, power is the life's blood of everything you guys are doing. Make sure that it's cleaned up before it gets to the equipment. And so that's why everybody qualifies for power. You always want to put conditioning in on the front end and make it non-negotiable. That no matter what, at least Merit Series stuff in there. You really want to do them a justice, Classic Series, or anything with SMP, EBS, and lift in there. And with that, open it up for any other questions, as that's the end of this one at this point in time.
All right, so if you have a question, please feel free, you can type it in chat, or you can actually raise your hand and I will take you off mute if you have a question, and then you can ask Rob directly. So go ahead and raise your hand, or if you prefer to type it in the chat, that's fine with us.
No question too big or too small? Perfect. Sounds like we got someone. Please don't be embarrassed. Oh, okay. So I think someone's just off of mute. Whoever it is, hello. With that, yeah, I mean, this is a great time, great opportunity. Like I said, 18 years of knowledge. I've been in this industry for 25 plus years at least. I originally come from, just a little bit more about my background. I came from basically guidance and military background for missiles and whatnot, all kinds of fun stuff. Worked for engineering companies for a long time. Also was in the medical equipment field, building anode rotators for X-ray machines. So I came from the imaging side of things, which is funny enough, that's my wife's, that's her profession. She's actually a retina imaging specialist for eyes. And yeah.
I hate to interrupt, but we do have a question.
Awesome.
They wanted to know how the partnering with Panamax works. Do you operate as a separate company, or do you share engineers and just target different market segments?
We actually share engineers and we target different markets. That's the end of that comment is absolutely how we go about it. We are a team of people, and we really to segregate knowledge would be kind of dumb on our end, I think. Though yes, the Panamax protector disconnect surge protection is a sacrificial design, which is fine. But it's a fused MOV section. So when that thing goes down, if it does sacrifice itself, there's nothing that's ever going to pass afterwards. Unlike that plastic power strip that I showed you, that would go ahead and pass the energy and burn things up. And of course, on the SMP side, we wanted to keep the Furman surge suppression a little bit more, I would say, robust, just because the show must go on, especially when you have, we're not touring right now, but anytime when you don't want to have any downtime, you really want that SMP technology in there, because it's not only protecting itself, but it's protecting everything obviously afterwards, but it can also be up and running. If it's a quick nanosecond spike, it's just going to dissipate the energy and laugh at it, and your equipment is never going to see it, and the firm is not going to go down. If it's something where it's extended under and over, that's where the extreme voltage shutdown comes in. So bottom line, okay, yes, we do share it all together. They are different marketplaces in somewhat, so we do segregate it.
All right, we got another question.
Okay.
I work in the film production business. We frequently have a variety of devices that reflect, I think it means harsh, back into the power source. I'd like you to expand a bit on the differences in the various products when it comes to the EMRF filtering for individual outlets.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, with that, you have that, the harshness or, that noise that could be introduced back onto the AC line. with that, when you add a conditioner at a local level right at the equipment, it's stopping that harshness from being backflushed back into the circuits that are involved within the building. And then, obviously when you have those separate banks that we have on the Classic series, it stops them from cross-contaminating one another. Now, there are, we barely went over probably maybe a quarter of the line of what Furman carries. We do isolation transformers. We do that, quick touch on the voltage regulation. And with the isolation transformer, you can actually isolate yourself off the grid from that backflush coming in. And depending on the isolation transformer, we build some where they're separate secondary windings coming off a 1-to-1 transformer, where you can have, there's 4 banks on the back, A, B, C, and D. Those are actually separate windings from one another. So if you got something that's really a lot of harsh content, and it can backflush in through, our normal separation that we do with the ferrite bead technology, with that guy, you have separate transformers. So there's no chance of ever getting any sort of cross-contamination over to one another. So there are things at all levels that we have to provide, excellent clean power to your equipment and to make sure that they don't muddle up one another as well.
Okay, I got another one. Let me see. Sorry, I scrolled up and down and missed it. Hold on just a second. Let's see here. All right, I think I got that question. Any Furman items that can be controlled by IP and not RS-232?
Not in the Furman side, but we do have on the Panamax side. We have basically our M4315 Pro, M4320 Pro. There are a lot of devices. Well, actually, I'll digress back. We have what's called our F1500 UPS. That's our 1500 VA battery backup. And with our battery backups, the 1000 and 1500, they are audio video level protection and filtration, because they have the SMP technology in there, so they're non-sacrificial. They have the extreme voltage shutdown, and then they have the lift filtration, EMI and RFI. And then with those, you have 4 banks you can control on the back of there. You would just add what's called a Blue Bolt CV2 card, which is you pull out the RS-232 card and you slide in the IP card, and with that can be controlled with any control system. And a lot of them, there's already modules for it. And then on the Panamax line, that M4315 Pro or M4320 Pro, those are 15 and 20 amp power conditioners. Those have individual outlet control on those. Those are 8 outlets on the back and 1 on the front, and you can control all 8 outlets individually on the back of those. And those are absolutely IP controllable as well.
All right, we have a problem for you to solve in this next question. We have someone who has a client who has the popping going on and the audio fading in and out. What do you think the issue might be?
Popping going on and the audio video going out would be something I'd probably have to ask a second level question. Pops, clicks, and buzz usually relates to EMI and RFI. And what that means is there's some sort of induction that's happening on the circuit where that device is being plugged into. If there is, no power conditioner that's on there, or there's something simple, like maybe our Merit series, and that's not taking care of the problem entirely, that's where you want to switch over to a Classic series with that lift filtration in there. And that's what that linear filtration is all about, is getting rid of those pops, clicks, and buzzes that can come in on the AC side. Now, the raise and lowering of the dB level of the audio, that can be a whole different thing at that point. That would be something where I would probably try to get something on there to measure what's going on with the voltage on the AC line. You might have something that's causing the AC line to drag down and causing weird instances where maybe it's causing a lowering and level on the whatever's providing the audio in the first place. And the questions I would have is, what is the device that's providing the audio? Is it an analog system or is it digital? You know, there's deeper questions that go on beyond that, by all means. And if there's no conditioning and protection on there right now, I would highly suggest start with something with S&P, lift, and EBS, get that in place, and see if it clears it up. It may just clear it up entirely, even including the fading audio and video. If it continues from there, that's where we would look at looking at the power quality as far as the voltage goes.
All right. It looks like that was our last question.
Awesome.
So-
Great amount of questions. I love it. I love when people ask. It's much better than silence.
Yes. Rob, I may have taken down your screen too soon. Can you give everyone your, how do you feel about giving out your contact information for questions?
I'm perfectly fine with that. Absolutely.
Okay.
So my email address, if you want to give it out, it's rob.harris@nortechcontrol.com. And yeah, if you want to, go for deeper dive stuff, we could absolutely do that. And that'd be the best way to get a hold of me. Just send me an email there, and then we can start a conversation, and then, figure out what's going on, whether it's either designing a system or trying to troubleshoot and figure out problematic things that could be happening with the equipment based on power. I'd be glad to be there for you and share my, many years of information that I have. And then you could get back with your Furman representative to get the right products going.
All right, so I just want to remind everybody, I did put up our sales team screen so that if you have questions about purchasing any of these products that Rob has spoken about today, you can reach out to any of these particular, your sales person, your sales rep for your area, and they would be happy to help you. And Rob, thank you so much. It was a great presentation, and it sounds like we have some interest. So we will be following up for those who have reached out to me during this presentation requesting the PowerPoint. We'll be glad to share that with you. We also post on our Furman blog, furmanproav.com/blog. We'll have the actual recording up tomorrow. So you can take a